act as a watershed, and Lee Clifford said it at the time, and it was only when we had commentary that escalated.
I'm sorry, I understand.
Can I finish the question, please? Senator, please? Because it was only then when we felt that it was escalating, and there was talk then of 48-hour strikes, talk again of this thing lasting for another year, that I decided on the Saturday to call a board meeting. I made the decision that we were going to ground the airline. I called the board meeting at 10:30. Board meeting took place at 10:30. I got unanimous support from the board. Then going through the timeline, I called the executive committee. And this was not planned because I couldn't even contact Bruce at the start. Bruce was actually with his architects and planning building of a house, and we had to try and track him down at 12 o'clock to say actually what was taking place. Then we started the calls and made
I'm
the
sure
decision.
My colleagues will ask you more questions. I just want to ask a couple of technical questions about that. You actually received board approval for the decision?
No, the decision was a board endorsement. It was my decision.
So it was your decision using your management prerogative?
Yes.
So what delegated authority do you have from the board to undertake a decision such as this?
I have complete operational discretion but I knew this was because I made a decision to ground the A380s when the engine explosion, as you said, happened a year ago. I made the decision to ground the airline when the volcanic ash occurred. I've got complete operational decision for commercial, operational, other reasons. I decided to have a board meeting because of the brand implications and the significant implications around this to make sure that the board was comfortable with the decision, and we had unanimous endorsement from the board.
I'm just trying to understand this. You made a decision on your own.
Yes.
Using your discretion.
Yes.
Using your delegated authority.
Yes.
Are there any limits to your delegated authority? Is there a monetary limit, for instance? Presumably you can't decide to buy a dozen A380s as an operational decision, or can you?
No, I can't. There is, on capital expenditure, there are limitations.
What is that limitation?
It's $40 million. $40 million is my cap on capital limitations. But on operational issues, I have unlimited.
So you have to go to the board for anything more than $40 million in capital expenditure. Yeah. You could make a decision that could cost the airline, for instance, $50, $100, $200 million. There is no limit to that.
Absolutely. On the operational side, I have complete autonomy on what we need to do because I have to make decisions every day that can cost the company $10, $20 million dollars.
Okay,
there are significant operational decisions that are made every day, and the board has delegated me that authority to spend what money is needed at any appropriate time. And that's very appropriate for a company that takes safety as its top priority. We want to make sure that I have the complete autonomy to be able to spend what I need, when I need, in order for that to occur.
Just finally on this, so for a momentous decision to ground the entire fleet, to stand down 27,000 or 27,000 employees, that was all on your head?
That was my decision, absolutely.
Thank you.
Sorry, Senator Xenophon. Now, there are a number of senators who want to continue on the same point I've had expressed to me. Senator Gallagher, Senator Cameron and Senator Abetz. I'll go to Senator Gallagher first, Senator Abetz and Senator Cameron.
Thank you, Chair. Mr Joyce, in your CEO's address to the AGM, you said, "We will protect and grow Australian jobs over the long term. We will create sustainable value for you, our shareholders, and we will make Australians proud." That's your closing remarks. Can you explain to this committee how your actions on the next day achieved those stated objectives?
I can, Senator, because let me explain to you my decision-making process on this. I felt that we had three alternatives available to us as a consequence of what was taking place on the with the industrial action. I could have capitulated to demands that were being asked by three of the unions. Our belief was that those demands, my belief, strong belief, is that those demands were going to endanger the future of the company. This is a company I feel so passionate about. It's a company that I want to make sure is going to survive for the future. The easiest thing I could have done is probably to capitulate, but I thought those demands would have put this company at risk, severely at risk. Secondly, I could have decided that we continued the way we were going. We'd already been in dispute for months. We'd already been in a dispute that cost us, as I said at that AGM, $68 million. We'd already had 70,000 passengers disrupted. We already seen hundreds of flights cancelled. We've already seen our forward bookings absolutely collapsing. And our forward bookings, and every indicator that we had, people were not travelling with us. People decided that Qantas was not going to be reliable. We had union leaders talking about a slow bake over a year. We had union leaders say, do not book with Qantas over Christmas. We had union leaders saying this could last into the middle or end of next year. So we knew we were losing our customers rapidly. And that $15 million a week that was costing us meant we were at the verge of a huge crisis in Qantas. We were at a crisis in Qantas, and we needed to do something. Then the only alternative that was left to me was to bring this to a head, to say we cannot last another year. So therefore, the decision was made that we would take, as a consequence of the union action, a lockout of the employees, and it was only the employees that were taking the action and covered by those agreements. We had made it very clear to the rest of the employees we were going to continue to pay them and continue to pay their salaries. And we felt that was the only way that we could get, the only viable way that we could get an agreement that was not going to endanger the future survival of the company.
Mr. Joyce, I'm sorry, Senator Gallagher, but with Senator Gallagher's permission, there just needs to be some clarification on the end of Senator Xenophon's questioning to Mr. Joyce. Senator Cameron has one very quick one. Senator Joyce, not Senator Joyce, I just saw Barnaby, sorry. Senator Betts. Frightened Livendale's had me. Senator Betts, you need one clarification after Senator Cameron, then I will go back to Senator Gallagher. Senator Cameron.
Mr. Joyce, if the board hadn't endorsed your decision, would the airline have been grounded? And if the board hadn't endorsed your decision, would your position as chief executive have been tenable?
Senator, I mean, it's hypotheticals. The board did endorse the decision unanimously, and absolutely we're fully behind this. And the board today is absolutely fully behind it and believes it's absolutely the right thing to do. So I don't think it's a hypothetical like that. I don't know, and I don't know what would have happened. All I know is what did happen, and I had full board support behind this.
Did the board feel ambushed by your position, the same as the travelling public were ambushed?
Senator Cameron, I will come to you and I will give you the call. And in all fairness, under my chairmanship, if we say we have one, we stick to the deal. And I will come back to you later. Senator Betts, you have one for clarification.
Yeah, look, thank you, Chair. Following on from Senator Xenophon, I think he was asking about your authority, Mr. Joyce, in relation to the grounding of the airline. I assume that there's been a lot of confusion in the public mind and, if I might say, with a lot of commentators and media. Grounding is different to a lockout.
Yes.
Does the same authority of which Senator Xenophon was asking you about in relation to grounding also apply to lockout?
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Betts. Senator Gallagher.
Mr. Joyce, thank you, Chair. Your CEO address raises a number of points. I have some quite specific questions on those points, so I just want to briefly refer to them. We have invested heavily in Qantas's premium domestic business, best network, frequency, lounges, loyalty program, proudly best for business. How many new aircraft have you put into the Qantas domestic premium business this year?
I'd have to take that on notice, Senator, but I do know, I think I said in the speech or in the transcript, that during my 3 years as CEO of Qantas, we've taken delivery of 80 aircraft, and over 60 of them, I think, have come to the Qantas brands. But let me take that on notice, and we'll confirm it. I will say again, Senator, that the vast majority of capital that we're expending is actually been spent on the Qantas brands. And one A380, I think numbers of aircraft tells one part of the story, but one A380, as an example, costs us over $300 million. That's the price of 5 A320s that would go into Jetstar. So the entire fleet of A380s that we have is actually more than the entire fleet, and that's just one part of the Qantas fleet, the entire Jetstar fleet. So we're still putting, and I'm very proud of the fact that we're putting a lot of investment in the Qantas brand, but we need the Qantas business to make money in order to justify that investment.
So the premium brand, my information is, has had one aircraft this year. You mentioned Jetstar, so I'll go quickly to Jetstar. It's a big success. The two-brand strategy has ensured we have a 65% domestic market share. I'll put it to you, Mr Joyce, you put 10 new aircraft into Jetstar this year?
Yeah, we probably have, but I can say...
Thank you, that's all I need to know. You can
Senator,
change your evidence at a later date if you like.
I will come back on it, but I think, and I can clarify with the guys here, I don't think one aircraft for Qantas is absolutely not the case. There's more than one aircraft that's gone in Qantas this year.
Premium domestic business?
Qantas business in total, and I think in the premium domestic business, I'll come back to you on how many has actually come in.
Now, you say that the international is down 200 million, and Senator Xenophon's asked for some explanations about your accounting processes. Your board member, James Strong, is on the record as saying that the historic success of Qantas as a carrier was getting the choice of its jet correct. Now, Malaysian, Singapore, Etihad's, Emirates, Cathay all operate 777s. Your 787 order is delayed and it's not on the horizon as I understand it. Reading the industry press, the 777 is a 30% more efficient plane than you operate. Do you accept any of those assertions that are quite regularly made in the financial press about your business?
Well, I think you have to go back in the history and address this at the AGM. First of all, those fleet decisions were made a long time before I was CEO. They were made all the way back to when James Strong was CEO. So if I did have a problem with them, I could actually declare that they are a problem, and that's one of the reasons why Qantas is a problem, and I would.
So
but I don't.
30% more efficient
but I don't.
It's not a problem.
But let me explain. Let me explain. I think why that is the right decision for Qantas. You go back every aircraft type, and every airline has to make decisions on what their critical missions are. What are the operations that are important for them, the length of services, the amount of volume, what we call the scheduling windows associated with them, the time slots that are available. And then the airlines look at each individual aircraft and say what's better for them. Now, Qantas has a unique operation. So some of the aircraft that work in other operators don't necessarily work in Qantas. So in 2000, when we made the decisions to go with the 380s as an example, there wasn't a variant of the 777 that had the range to get to Los Angeles or to do our critical missions. It didn't exist. That aircraft came available, so we committed to the A380s. That was the prime aircraft for a long-haul, ultra-long-haul international operations. Then in 2003, the 777-300ER came available. That was an aircraft that did have the range. We'd already committed to the A380s, and we knew on the drawing board there was a new aircraft that was going to be made available, which was the 787. The 787 is new technology, and it leapfrogs the 777. It's got an absolutely better fuel efficiency than existing technology by 25%. It gives us a better economics than the 777 will, and it gives us a range that actually provides us. So when the 787 came available, we were one of the first airlines in to take a big order. And actually, you know, Boeing and Airbus come to us to help design aircraft because we know our stuff. They actually know that we know what's the right aircraft to pick and how to pick it. So we got that aircraft designed to a lot of respect. Now today, we have this order of A380s, which per seat cost actually is lower than the 777-300ER. And for the high volume markets like to LA and the high volume markets to London, where we don't have the ability to add extra frequencies because they don't add any value, the A380 is the clear winner. To markets in Asia, where the 777 it could be too big of an aircraft, and the 787 has got lower fuel burn and better seat miles per trip, and it's significantly better per trip than a 777. That is the better aircraft. And the 78 actually gives us another advantage. It gives us an aircraft that we can use both internationally and domestically, where the 777 doesn't. It's too big for domestic operations. So while it wasn't my decision, Senator, I think it's absolutely the right decision for this company, and in terms of the fleet that we decided. And Qantas has some of the best people in the world that makes these fleet decisions.
Absolutely, and that's been a long historical factor in the success of Qantas. The point I try to make is your competitors who are taking the 92 or 82 people out of Australia are operating more fuel efficient aircraft that are flying now, and the 787 has repeatedly been delayed. and you won't have it for a couple of years.
We won't, but I think the wait will be worthwhile having because we'll leapfrog those competitors, Senator. And as I said, per seat mile cost, fuel is only one component. Per seat mile cost, the A380 is significantly better than the 777, and that's the aircraft we're primarily using on our international long-haul operations.
So this inquiry is now really looking at the survival of the Qantas brand, in my view, in particular in its domestic and international business. You have important and exciting initiatives in Asia, but once again my question goes to the core business. You're going to buy or put 24 new planes in Jetstar Japan, a new premium airline in Asia not called Qantas is going to get another 8 new aircraft. What happens to the travelling public in Australia on your existing domestic fleet, which I know from personal experience would have a reasonably high average age? If you combine Jetstar and Qantas together, you get 8.6. What happens if you take Jetstar out of that equation? What's the average age of the fleet that the travelling public who know and love Qantas travel on?
I'd have to take notice on that, Senator. But can I say again, coming back to what we're saying, the vast majority of the money that we're spending is on the Qantas fleet. And you're absolutely right on one thing. I'd love to be able to replace and move all of the aircraft as soon as we can. We are in the position Senator, that we have to be able to fund the capital expenditure that we're using. And at the moment, we're not making enough profits to fund what we're spending on aircraft for the group. And the main reason for that is the underperformance of Qantas International. We're spending $2.5 billion this year, $2.8 billion next year. We're one of the largest expenditures of aircraft of any other airlines in the world, except for the Middle Eastern carriers. We've got the second largest order of A380s, the second largest order of 787s. Now, if we cannot be able to fund them, we will not be able to replace the fleet. We have to be able to, like any business, able to pace its capital expenditure with its income. I cannot clarify, Senator, the one new aircraft this year is incorrect. Qantas has taken 7 new 737s so far this year, and it has another 2 that are arriving this year. It's another 16 in the next 2 years, and half of those aircraft are replacement for the older aircraft that are in our fleet.
On that, Mr. Joyce, sorry, Senator Gallagher, and I know that there are a lot of representatives of Qantas behind you. Is there someone behind you who could answer Senator Gallagher's question on the average age of the Qantas domestic fleet?
I'll check. We don't have it? We're getting it. We'll have it in a while.
Okay, thank you. Senator Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I really just want to go now to the really unbelievable, I think was your also assertion on the 29th of October. I've been told by people that Qantas booked 2,000 hotel rooms in Los Angeles, 800 hotel rooms in Singapore, and engaged couriers to get out the 20 or 30,000 letters to employees' homes prior to the decision that you made, endorsed later on the Saturday by the board?
Well, I can say that, Senator, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about a lot of factors around this.
Well, let's get yes or no.
Well, let's get them. There was no more hotels. We book hotel rooms all the time. We book hotel rooms because an airline of our size has disruptions. There was no more hotels rooms booked and before this than there would have normally been booked on a standard operation. I can categorically say that. I have to say, for every fact that comes up as a conspiracy theory, I could put another one on the table. My public relations department, which you'd think I would have wanted to be in Sydney when all of this took place, 3 of them were at the races in Melbourne on the day of this, got trapped in Melbourne, had to buy Virgin tickets to get back. Now, that's woeful planning if we'd
Could be called an alibi.
Come on, Senator. So there was absolutely, I categorically say I made a decision on Saturday, and there was no, and we do planning. I'll be honest, Senator. Going back, we had looked at a lockout as an alternative for a long time, and we have planning documents looking at how we would do a lockout lockout, what it would take. And that's why we came to the decision that once we made a lockout, we had to ground the airline immediately, because we had done that planning, we had done the risk assessment, and when we done the risk assessment, as an example, we knew it. And there's nothing wrong with a big business planning for these things. We should be planning for every scenario. We had a lot more scenarios that we were looking at than just this, and there are a lot of planning done in advance, but there was nothing of it actioned until we made the decision.
Can I just put one question on notice, and I'll go to the thing that a matter you've just referred to. Could you provide to this inquiry the instruction, order, whatever you may call it, to courier to every one of your employees the notice, so as that we could once and for all put these conspiracy theories to rest, that, you know, that order or whatever you did with TNT or whoever it was clearly after the decision you made? And the second, and I'll give you that on notice, the second question, you've referred to plans for a lockout. Can you tell this committee who you briefed and how early did you brief political, business, shareholders, or anybody on your plans?
Well, let me generally, because I know, again, there's a lot of commentary about who was briefed when and what happened. We've met with a whole series of ministers, shadow ministers. We've met with states. We've met with a whole range of different people over a period of time. And in those meetings, we were consistent in what we were saying. We were describing in very detail the problems that Qantas was facing. We absolutely were telling people about the forward bookings, the commercial damage, the financial damage. We were telling people about the operational issues that this was causing us. We were telling people about the safety concerns we had. I got a note from CASA saying that they were keeping us under close monitoring because industrial relations and the human factors issues around it becomes a concern for them. So we were explaining to everybody what was taking place and the rapid deterioration that was occurring within the group. We said very clearly, as part of that we were in the process of grounding aircraft. We said very clearly that aircraft could be grounded and the whole fleet could be grounded at short notice. At no stage did I talk to anybody about lockout. I talked about the grounding of the fleet and talking about the grounding of the airline as a possibility. We didn't talk to anybody on either side of politics about a lockout.
And in that, just to clear up the speculation that we see in the media and in other places, in your time that you spent wandering the halls of Parliament, as it's been reported, did you give equal time to all political parties in those briefings?
No, more with the government than with the opposition. We had, but I have to say, our history here has always been the same. I was talking to Jeff Dixon the other day, and he said there was an incident that occurred in 2006, 2007, and he took up the phone and rang the then Prime Minister Howard, and straight after he rang the opposition leader. So we always have an approach of informing both sides of politics when significant issues occur within the group. We have always taken that and continue to do it, and that's what we did in the build-up to this, and that's what we did on the day when we were making the calls to various individuals.
Mr. Joyce, there's been a proposition put to me that in the light of the 71% decrease in the share value, approximately 71% over the last since 2007, the absence of a dividend for 2 years, and the remarkable patience and the remarkable vote of 96% in respect to your remuneration in the light of a deterioration in the market value of the company, no dividend, that actually, have you had any discussions with anyone, shareholders, large or small, about the potential break-up of the company, sell off the profitable bets and take it out of the market in a private equity way?
No, I have not. And absolutely, Senator, I'll say categorically, my belief is that the Qantas group is strongest if we can keep the group together. That's why we are so worried about this proposed Qantas Sale Act amendments, because it would force us to break up the group. it would force us to actually sell those component parts of this airline, and it would take us down that path that would leave Qantas more exposed, because Jetstar would have to go, our ventures in Asia would have to go, and it would stop us turning the business around. So can I say in terms of the share price, we are in a cyclical industry. We are in a company that actually does go with the cycle. And if you look at airlines around the world, actually Qantas has outperformed them. Because Qantas is the only airline in the world with an investment-grade credit rating. Qantas is the only airline in the world that actually had profits during the global financial crisis consistently now, and going all the way back to, I think, 95. We've had profits. And you take the share price of some of the other airlines. Air France is 1/3 of what it was a year ago. Cathay Pacific, with the benefits of China, is 1/2 of what it was a year ago. British Airways is more than 1/2 of what it was. So Qantas is like all other airlines around the world. Our share price is disappointing, but it's a cyclical business. It's a business that responds to the cycle, and it's a business that gets hit by the cycle like every other airline.
Just to finish my questioning, Mr Joyce, you state in your CEO's address to the AGM, these new Asian airlines will not cost one single Australian job, not one. I take it that's in addition to the 1,000 that you've already announced to go.
Well, there's a complete separation, Senator, between the two. The jobs that we announced that were leaving the company was the consequences of us pulling back on the UK operations, and some changes like the investment in the new Brisbane catering centre, which is a complete change in work practices because it's new technology that we're using there. They were a consequence of that, nothing to do with the creation of the Asian airline. The Asian airline is not going to lose one single Australian job. The Asian airline is going to actually recover our shares, our share of the of market share into Asia. At the moment, we need to recover the traffic that's gone to Cathay Pacific, Singapore Airlines, Malaysian. It's not travelling with Qantas today. In fact, as you know, Senator, we only have 18% market share. 82 of every 100 Australians travel on another airline. We need to recover that, and it's even worse in Asia. So we need an Asian hub, and the whole idea of the Asian carrier is to give us access to traffic rights that we do not have, to set up a hub in Singapore or KL, to allow us to feed corporate traffic into a range of destinations. Where we provide a network, that corporate traffic actually travels with us to North America, to Europe, to South America, to South Africa, and in Australia. It wants to travel with us, but we're not competitive in Asia with what we're offering, and we need to do something in order to do that. That will strengthen every Qantas job, because it means the existing Qantas services in Asia will have more repeat business on it. It means that the existing services of Qantas into Asia will get stronger, and that hopefully, in my belief, allows us to start growing the Qantas brand again once we've turned it around.
Alan Joyce speaking there. You've been watching the Qantas Senate hearing in Canberra. We'll say goodbye to our viewers now on ABC One, but to continue watching, you can switch over now to ABC News 24, where my colleague Andrew Gagan picks up our coverage. Have a great weekend.
Amazing pace. So we know that we need to invest, and any successful airline needs to it. Look at what happened British Airways and the American carriers, the commercial carriers around the world that aren't sponsored by the governments. Their fleets are a lot older than Qantas's, and they're not spending anywhere near what we're spending. We're spending, as I said, $2.5 billion this year, $2.8 billion next year. We are massively investing in the fleet. That's why we need a successful Qantas, because our cash flow, I mean, I'll put it back to you. Our cash flow at the moment is $1.7 billion. We're spending 2.5. That means we're borrowing the rest. That means that it's like the equivalent of an individual having a mortgage that their income is not covering. That's where we are. We have a gap of over $700 million able to pay the mortgage, pay for our aircraft. We need to close it. We need to be able to be in a position to close that gap by turning around Qantas International. Otherwise, we won't be able to replace the fleet. And then the scenario you're talking about Qantas leaving, customers leaving Qantas and going to other airlines will occur. My task is to turn that around so that we have a viable and successful Qantas, and we need to be able to afford the replacement of the fleet, and we can't today.
Thank you.
Before I go to Senator Betts, I would like to just clarify something, if I may, Mr Joyce, in some questions from Senator Gallagher. Firstly, Senator Gallagher, I think you said about rooms being booked in LA 2000. and there was a number mentioned in Singapore, 600, 800. And I'm sorry, I just missed the answer. You said something about you continually book rooms all around the world.
We do, and I'm told on that rumour that we have not booked any additional hotel accommodation that we would normally do on periods that occur. So we can take it on notice and come back to you and show that's the case, but there wasn't any forward planning for this by us.